Hello, my name is Mike McNamara. I'm a quilt maker. I've been making quilts since the bicentennial, and I like to make quilts for my loved ones, my friends, my family. I made many quilts for the AIDS National Quilt, the Names Project. It's a great project to work on. But at any rate, I also like to help people make quilts for their loved ones, for people who don't want a quilt, who don't want to sew, who don't know how to sew, don't even want to learn how to sew. But anyway, let me just show you the way I go about making quilts with other people. I meet with them, we go over fabrics, or we go over blocks. A block is a square that is typical that a quilt is based on. And there are about, well, over 4,000 blocks that you can choose from. Yeah. So here I have an example of a block. This block here is called the Virginia worm fence, and it's my variation on that. It's based on the actual Virginia worm fence that's found in the fields of Virginia. And it just zigzags across the yards. And there you have that look, that higgledy-piggledy zigzag sort of look. And so here's 9 of them in various two-tone colors. You just have to pick 2 fabrics and make a block. I'm going to be peeling things down so you can get to the next level. And as you can see, that Virginia worm fence is here in this quilt, here and here. It's also down here, but it's not the whole quilt. This is for a couple who are uh, husband and wife. The wife writes short stories for young readers called Amera Scares. And so I found all my scary fabric, like Halloween fabric up there, and mummy and Dracula fabric down there, and werewolf boys down here. And the husband is a great painter and artist of accurate American history. So there's some great historical references here, presidents, scenes from Americana. There's also a feed sack here from Wayne, the Wayne company that made looks like poultry products, and they live in Waynesboro. So you can see that I made this quilt for these 2 Virginians with the Virginia worm fence, with the way one writes books and one does artwork, and they both live in Waynesboro. And that's how I come across fabrics like that and how I want to make a quilt for other people. And sometimes it's not as crazy as this is with the Virginia worm fence and all kinds of fabrics and where does everything begin and end? Sometimes you just want to use one piece of fabric, the Mona Lisa fabric. It's a fleece. It's a nice read a book under or watch television under type of a quilt, nice and warm. You can just back it with some other fabric, and there's your own Mona Lisa fleece. Yeah. Another way to think of making quilts is just to make quilts that are pictorial or they can hang on your wall. This is from a challenge that a friend of mine did with the Statue of Liberty fabric, which is up at the top up here. So I took the Statue of Liberty fabric and I had this upholstery fabric that has New York, those big letters right there, and all my New York fabric is in there, other Statue of Liberty fabric in there. And so I had a lot of fun making that quilt. And uh, so that's another way of thinking of making a quilt is something that can hang on the wall. A lot of people make what are called art quilts. And this kind of sewing is curved piecing. You can see it's not that straight block look, it's that curvilinear cut into it. The next quilt I'm going to show you, unlike the many blocks in that quilt with the Virginia worm fence, this is only 20 blocks, 20 squares. And it's some of them are just whole pieces of cloth, and it's just a way to commemorate a wedding of 2 friends. They got married in France, so this French fabric. He looks like Elvis, and he loves Elvis. They're both brilliant people, so I put a light bulb fabric in there. It's just a real fun way to make a quilt for people to commemorate their wedding. And I actually call this one of my double wedding rings because I put that curved piecing in there with rings that are just implied. I don't try to do the perfect little rings that, well, I'm not very good at it, to be frank, but I just like to do my own curved piecing. More curved piecing are my hearts. I love making my heart blocks. I love the shape of the heart, but I love mine because they remind me of the way we made hearts in grade school for our friends. You'd take construction paper, fold it in half, cut it, and yeah, you gave the best one to Elaine Raisey because you really liked her, that sort of a thing. Yeah. Anyway, so here are my heart blocks. It's a real lot of fun, and I teach this. I teach curved piecing. I teach my heart block. I teach the Virginia worm fence and many other blocks. It's a whole lot of fun. This next this next set, yeah, because I sew, I must want a whole bunch of ties, right? Invariably, people, all of our friends that sew, people say to us, I have my dad's old ties, my grandpa's old ties. Do you want them? No. They come anyway, and I started a project with them, but I failed, so I'm going to try something new. Who knows? It's real hard to work with ties for me. It's just not something that I cotton to. So I'll give it a go, though. There's no stopping sewing when you've got fabric in front of you. Another way to look at quilt making is to commemorate something. This is a quilt made by a famous, well-known quilt maker. She has since passed. Her name is Mary Whitehead. She's a great teacher here in the Bay Area. She's commemorating the 1991 firestorm in the Oakland Hills. This is called Firestorm, and it's a wonderful quilt. It's full of dyed fabrics that are just flame-like, and the gray surround is that smoke. It's also quilted by a well-known machine quilter, Laura Lee Fritz. So it's a real beautiful quilt. And with all the fires that we've had here in California, I can imagine we're going to have a lot more fire quilts coming out. So that's good and better. Like to commemorate, let's get past it and remember what we went through. And last but not least, there's just any number of fabric that you can find. Animals, roosters, Daffy Duck, camels, life cereal, unicorns, lips that glow in the dark, Japanese theater, Barbie, dudes and dudettes, fast cars, or just solids. You get to choose. Maybe you'd like to make a quilt that's just all different kinds of greens, all kinds of yellows, all kinds of stripes, all kinds of dots, whatever. But that's what I like to work with people with, and that's how I like to make quilts. I like to make them with people, for people. It's a real fun project. Again, my name is Mike McNamara, and I'm your quilt maker. Thank you very much.